Tomoki is a degenerate loser who lived a boring life until he met a freaky angel who almost knocked him out. However, to make up for it, the angel granted him any wish, so he chose to start clapping her and all her angel friends. Everything started when Tomoki kept seeing a strange girl in his dreams, but every time he tried to touch her, she'd fly away and he'd wake up. One morning, Gitsuki, his childhood friend, had to drag him to school, only for him to pass out during class and end up having the same dream again. But this time, the strange girl speaks, and she begs him to save her before fading away. When Tomoki wakes up, he finds himself in tears, and although Mitsuki suggests he talk to a guy named Sugata. A while later, Sugata listens to everything about Tomoki's dream and then proceeds to show him a black hole circling the planet. He explains that his dreams and the black hole are part of a new world which is certain to fly over their town at midnight. Mitsuki asks to come along, and Sugata agrees, but when the time comes, Tomoki is the only one who shows up. When he decides to leave, Sugata calls him and tells him to run since something weird is about to happen. Before Tomoki can process that, the black hole appears above him, and an energy ball crashes a few meters away. As he peeks at the sight to know what's up, he locks eyes with an angel's mommy milkers and runs away before his thoughts can rise. But when pillars start falling from the black hole, he fears that the angel might get harmed, so he runs back to play hero. However, he almost gets crushed on the way, so the angel ends up saving him instead. While in mid-flight, she forms a pact with him, and when she lands, she introduces herself as an Angeloid named Ikaros, promising to fulfill all his heart's desires. The next morning, when Tomoki wakes up and sees Ikaros, he realizes that his day isn't the only thing that will get long and hard. As for the other, Ikaros begs for him to ask anything of her, explaining that she was created only to fulfill her master's wish. So while Tomoki stares at mommy milkers, he asks to be rich, and is shocked when Ikaros summons 10 billion yen out of thin air. Now that he's convinced she can make anything possible, he decides to fulfill all of his weird plotful fantasies, starting with Mitsuki. First, he becomes invisible and fondles her plot while she's dressing up. Then he pauses time and takes a peek at every lady's plot armor, deriving pleasure in removing them and sampling their plots. After having a blast, he tells Ikaros to show him her plots, but fearing that she might get pregnant, he backs off before he'll end up paying child support. He then gives his request a rest, jokingly saying that all he wants now is global domination, only to wake up the next morning, shocked to find that Ikaros has wiped everyone from existence. Ikaros apologizes, saying she thought it was an order, and even offers to self-destruct. But just as she's about to pull the trigger, Tomoki jumps on her in tears, begging her to at least stay with him. He confesses how much he regrets losing everyone and wishes that everything had just been a dream. To his surprise, he wakes up the next morning to find that things are back to normal, and Ikaros tells him she made it that way. Grateful, he thanks her, but when she asks if he was serious about them being together, Tomoki simply tells her to do whatever she wants. Later that morning, while Mitsuki dresses up for school, she sees that her plot don't fit her plot armor anymore and begs that they stop growing. When she's done, she calls out to Tomoki to prepare for school, but since she doesn't get any response, she heads to Tomoki's house to wake him up, only to find him on top of Ikaros. As Tomoki tries to explain himself, Mitsuki gives him the beating of his life, demanding to know who Ikaros is. Even when Tomoki tells her the truth, she struggles to believe it, and he ends up drawing a lot of attention when he arrives at school with Ikaros. Later, he confides in Sugata, who is quite sure that Ikaros is from the New World, so he advises Tomoki to live with her until he can find more details about her origins. Mikako likes the idea, since living with Ikaros means Tomoki would get to clap her interstellar kitty. But Tomoki shuts that down, since he doesn't want Mitsuki to chop off his sausage. He tells Ikaros to head home, so she hands him one of her updated wishing cards before she leaves. During lectures, Tomoki decides not to use the outdated card Ikaros gave him, but he makes the mistake of thinking about having weird plotful abilities. So when he sees Mitsuki's plot armor after she trips, it flies off, leaving everyone in class shocked. Pissed, Mitsuki holds down her skirt and asks why Tomoki's pocket is glowing, and that's when the moron realizes he's messed up. After taking yet another beating, Tomoki explains that it's the card's fault. So Mitsuki heads to Sugata's office to wear another plot armor. However, when she tries it on, it struggles with her and flies away into outer space. Puzzled, Sugata wonders what's going on, so he remains in the room the next time Mitsuki attempts another one. However, even after Mitsuki tries all kinds of plot armor, including the weird ones Sugata suggests, they end up flying away. But rather than feel bad for her, Tomoki likes that she'll remain that way for the rest of her life, and he gets nosebleeds as he thinks about it. Right then, Sugata realizes that the outdated card might grant Tomoki's subconscious wishes, so to test his theory, he asks him to make a wish. Once Tomoki does, the card transforms into cuffs, and he immediately places them on Mitsuki, playfully admitting that he's always wanted to do that. Scared, Mitsuki reminds him that there's nothing under her skirt, and that her kitty cat will be on display when the wind blows. Coincidentally, the wind blows, but before Tomoki can catch a glimpse of what lies underneath, Ikaros shows up and ruins the biggest plot reveal in all of Annie and Dear recaps. She asks Tomoki what he wants, so when Tomoki requests plot armors, Ikaros activates a card that summons all plot armors from ladies within a 60-mile radius. Consequently, all the ladies' floodgates spiral out of control, and their plot armors pour on Tomoki's face. But just when he tries to sniff them, they all fly out the window into outer space, and he somehow gets another beating from Mitsuki. While he recovers, Sugata asks Ikaros to explain what just happened, so she reveals that everything is because of the card, which can send an order request for various things to an entity called the Synapse. With this knowledge, Sugata pieces things together and realizes that Mitsuki's plot armor flew away initially because Tomoki didn't like it, and that the cuffs were just a way to tell her to do what he wants. Though Tomoki still claims that it's the card's fault, Mitsuki gives him the look and turns to Sugata to ask what she should do next. Sugata simply tells her to wear a plot armor Tomoki would like, so he sends Ikaros and Mikako on a shopping spree to get plenty of plot armors. On the way home, Tomoki shields Mitsuki's skirt to prevent it from going up, and even allows her to walk all over him so Sugata doesn't see her reflection in a pool of water. But when the wind blows and raises Mitsuki's skirt, he channels his inner Barry Allen and prevents Sugata from catching a view. Once they reach his house, Ikaros helps Mitsuki try on the new plot armors, but as the hours pass, all of them fly away. Pissed, Mitsuki wonders if Tomoki never wanted her to wear plot armor at all, but Ikaros insists she try one more, which resembles the one she had on earlier. Surprisingly, when she does, it fits, and even the cuffs come off. While Tomoki is happy that things are finally back to normal, Sugata wonders why the last one fit, but Tomoki says he's done thinking about plot armors for now. That night, he makes up with Mitsuki, and though she feels some type of way about him living alone with Ikaros, she says she's cool with it. Tomoki then calls her out for wearing the same kind of plot armor since they were kids, and that's when it hits her that everything that happened today is his fault. Pissed, she throws things at him, while Ikaros quietly watches as all the missing plot armors fly into the night sky. The following day, Tomoki gets frustrated as he struggles to solve a math homework problem from his ugly, disgusting teacher. He considers getting a card from Ikaros to do the trick, but Mitsuki shuts that down, since he messed things up the last time he was given a card. While she runs her big mouth, Tomoki can't help but stare at her plot from underneath the table, but he's caught in the act when he proceeds to take a better look. After giving him a well-deserved beating, Mitsuki suggests that they meet Sugata to help them with their math problem, but when they reach a house named after him, they realize that he doesn't live there. Then Mikako shows up and offers to take them to meet Sugata. Apparently, he lives in a tent at the riverbank, and Tomoki is shocked that someone like him is a brokey. Later, Sugata helps with his math homework, so midway through, he calls Ikaros and asks her to solve the rest. He believes that since she's an Angeloid created by the Synapse, she should at least have superior computational abilities. Surprisingly, Ikaros finishes it fast, only for Tomoki to see that she didn't solve anything. Sugata finds it suspicious that she can't solve math, but he agrees to complete the homework anyway. Once he's done, Mitsuki and Tomoki thank him for the help and even offered to pay him back in return, but he just tells Tomoki to have a look at something on his computer. He shows him a satellite view of the new world, explaining that it has been stationary above the city for a while, and something like that hasn't happened before. Though Mikako can't see it when she looks up, Tomoki reminds Sugata that he's seen it before, which was a few days ago, and it looked like there was a hole in the night sky. This makes Sugata wonder if it might be refracting light somehow, so to clarify things, Tomoki tells Ikaros to have a look. The moment Ikaros flies off into the clouds, she returns in barely a minute and informs them that she saw nothing up there. Though Tomoki believes her, Sugata gets a feeling that she's hiding something, but he keeps quiet about it for now. He reveals that he'll clarify things himself, and that's when Mitsuki questions if he wants to fly again. Sugata confirms this, saying that he'd like to run another test flight the next day, and since he'll need their help to do it, he tells everyone to pass the night at his place. As they accept, Mikako distributes tasks, and Ikaros ends up being assigned to get supplies from the market. Tomoki feels like sending Ikaros off on her own won't work, but Sugata sees it as a chance to assess how good she is at carrying out mummy duties. But when it's time for her to go, she forgets the money, and Tomoki is forced to pull her back. The next time she's pulled back again, because normal humans who go to the market don't have wings or chokers strapped on their necks. When she's finally allowed to go, Tomoki keeps close tabs on her because he doesn't trust her shopping skills. Mikako and the others show up to watch too, and while Ikaros impresses them with picking the right items, she mistakes a chick for meat. So when she returns, Tomoki rates her shopping skills with an F, but he pats her on the head when he sees her becoming sad. Later that afternoon, while Tomoki is fishing, Mitsuki joins him and ends up slipping into the lake. So she gets wet, and Tomoki can't help but stare at her dripping plots, and he gets smacked for it. While he recovers, Sugata shows up and asks if anyone knows where Ikaros ran off to, only for the Angeloid to arrive with the largest fish in all of anime. Sugata stares in shock since that kind of fish only exists in the Amazon River. So when Tomoki asks Ikaros how she got to the Amazon, she reveals she can fly at Mach 24. Sugata is shocked when he does the math, and he laughs at the idea of Ikaros being just a pet. Around sunset, everyone enjoys Ikaros' cooking, especially Tomoki, who mentions that it tastes just like his mommy's food. Mitsuki laughs after hearing this and casually says that they've only been having fun since Ikaros arrived. But while Ikaros tries to understand the concept of fun, Sugata stares at her with contempt, thinking she's putting up a facade. So at night, he confronts her and asks her to reveal the truth about who or what she is. Puzzled, she tells him she's just an Angeloid, but he cuts her off midway through and asks her to reveal her true intentions for Tomoki. The question throws Ikaros off guard, as she reveals she's not sure of her purpose, only that she was told to remain by Tomoki's side. Deep down, she feels bad that Tomoki is hard on her, while Sugata finds it interesting that she doesn't know her purpose. He figures that he'll need to find out who sent her to Tomoki and decides to let her off the leash for now. As he walks away, Tomoki hides behind the tree, and it appears that he heard everything. The next morning, after a failed flight attempt with Tomoki, Ikaros shows up, asking Sugata to explain the feeling of fun. She reveals that whenever she's with Tomoki, her heart gets lighter and something else gets wet. But rather than answer her question, Sugata tells her to find out for herself and report back to him with the results. So that evening, when she returns home with Tomoki, she asks if he likes being around her, and he says yes. Then she spends the rest of the evening writing about how she'd like to keep having fun with him. A few plotful nights later, Tomoki wakes up only to find that all the plot armors that flew away days ago are now after him. Curious, he wonders why they're back. So Ikaros tells him that they might have flown across the planet just to see him. Hearing this stirs something weird in his mind. So while he hugs the plot armors for paying a visit, he doesn't notice Mitsuki standing behind him with murderous intent. And though he manages to endure her beating, he weeps because she also destroyed most of the plot armors. While he recovers, Mitsuki tells him to dispose of the remaining ones, and when she sees a bunch of wishing cards, she secretly asks Ikaros to let her have one. Later at school, Tomoki meets Sugata and tells him about the plot armors. So when Mikako hears what happened, she teases him because he saw Mitsuki's plot armor again. As a result, Mitsuki grows uncomfortable and begs Tomoki to get rid of the plot armors. Though Tomoki agrees to do it, Mitsuki knows in her mind that she can't trust him. So the following morning, she asks if he has gotten rid of them, and Tomoki says yes. Meanwhile, that's a lie because the moment he gets up, he plays with one, only for it to explode in his face. After the explosion, he wonders what's going on, and Mitsuki teases him for not getting rid of the plot armors. Apparently, she used the card she took from Ikaros to ensure that all plot armors Tomoki sees explode. Tomoki is shocked when he finds out, so he baits Mitsuki into turning her back, and when she does, he peeks at her plot armor, causing it to explode. As the smoke clears, she cusses Tomoki out and he's forced to lie stuck in his room, looking for a way to leave the house without running into a potential bomb. The moment he exits his room, he's greeted by lots of plot armors hanging from the ceiling, and he almost loses his life. Though he somehow manages to survive this one, he blindfolds himself in hopes of avoiding seeing any plot armors, only for one to explode in his face when he touches it. When he's had enough of the explosions, he decides to jump out the window, but he's greeted by the numerous plot armors he'd hung outside last night. This time, the explosion isekais him out of this world, and even after he resurrects, another set of plot armors explodes when he sees them in the bathroom. In the meantime, Ikaros is having a field day with Mitsuki, shopping for cute plot armors that fit her S-ranked milk jugs. Once she's done, Mitsuki enjoys lunch with her, where she talks about how she'd like to be friends. She explains that when she was new in town, she was always indoors since she was sick, and Tomoki was her only friend. Back then, on her birthday, she was sad because no one came to see her, but Tomoki made her happy when he stopped by and offered her some cake. Presently, she mentions that though Tomoki acts nuts most times, at least he's a good person. All the while she's talking, Ikaros' hair tingles, and she realizes that Tomoki is in danger, so she tells Mitsuki they need to check on him. However, when Mitsuki arrives home, Tomoki runs out the front door and clashes face first with her plot armor. When she notices that something's moving down there, she realizes she's cooked since her plot armor is about to explode. Tomoki regains consciousness a few minutes after the explosion and realizes that Mitsuki was blasted into his house. As he wonders what to do next, Mikako encourages him to enter the house and try to save Mitsuki. She even equips him with an air, a bulletproof vest, and other sweating items, giving him a motivational speech on how he needs to man up and get things done. While inside the house, Mitsuki runs from Tomoki because her plot armor exploded and there's nothing censoring her pies. When Tomoki sees her entering his room, he begs her not to open his closet, but she ignores him and ends up seeing his spicy magazine collection. To make things worse, a card Tomoki placed in the closet activates itself and transforms into a panty robot. Turns out Tomoki set the thing up to protect his collection, and now Mitsuki is caught in the middle of it. As he thinks of a way to save her, he recalls the wise words of his grandfather and summons the courage to confront the panty robot. Eventually, he saves Mitsuki and then attacks the panty robot, using an exploding plot armor trick to defeat it. Though his house explodes, the neighbors applaud him like a hero, seeing that he has saved Mitsuki. However, one good stare at Mitsuki's plots makes his worldly desires kick in, so when she notices his sausage, she gives him the beating he deserves. Tomoki joins Ikaros to have breakfast in what's left of his destroyed house. While they eat, Tomoki realizes he needs to get an air conditioner since summer is near, but Ikaros tells him to get a house first. Though he gives it a thought, he suggests living with Shugata, only to change his mind when he gets attacked by wild bears. So later that morning, he stops by Mitsuki's house, asking her to let him stay, but Mitsuki flat out tells him no, fearing that he'd go through her stuff and sniff her plot armors. Mikako shows up, asking Tomoki to stay at her place instead. Tomoki immediately accepts the offer since Mikako's family is a big deal in town, and Mitsuki even agrees to join him. On reaching the Satsukane residence, Mikako's father gives them a king-style welcome, leaving Tomoki in shock. That's when he learns that the family has been the city's ruling clan for years, and though he finds this shocking, Mikako tells him to chill out. She insists that everything will be fine as long as they behave themselves, only for Ikaros to appear from nowhere and pat her father's alopecia skull, leaving everyone shocked. Right then, Tomoki rolls on the floor, begging the old man to spare their lives since Ikaros has an infant's brain. Surprisingly, Mikako's father lets it slide and even treats them to a wonderful welcoming party. That evening, while everyone enjoys the feast, Ikaros notices that Tomoki is absent, so when she asks where he is, Mitsuki mentions that he went to take a bath. This bothers Sugata because taking a bath in the wrong place here can lead to decapitation. Meanwhile, Tomoki wanders off to the hot springs, where he's greeted with Mikako's dripping plots. And though he knows that she's plotting a different plot twist, he allows her to get closer because the only thing he wants to do is twist her. But she ends up telling him to run, so his head won't be chopped off. Immediately, the emergency alarm rings, and it turns out he's in the bath Sugata just talked about. The security guards are alerted to abduct him, and though he begs to be spared, Mikako's father insists that the clan's laws are absolute and there's nothing he can do. When asked why, Mikako explains that the bath originally belonged to her ancestor, who was a celestial maiden. After she passed, the bath was open to the public, and the city ended up being punished with earthquakes and other disasters. It only stopped when the visitors who used the bath were decapitated, which is why her father needs to chop off Tomoki's head. Shugata, though a family friend, tries to interfere in the execution. But before Tomoki can be executed, Ikaros shows up and scares the guards with her powers. She only stops when Tomoki notices that she's going too far, so Mikako's father decides to give them a pass. However, the next morning, Tomoki wakes up and is shocked to find himself on a plane headed for an uninhabited island. Turns out, Mikako orchestrated the trip because of what happened the previous day. When they reach the island, she tells everyone to make themselves feel comfortable, but everyone's shocked when Mikako reveals that there's no beach house or buildings of the sort. So Shugata suggests that Ikaros and Tomoki look for a food source, while he'll join Mikako to look for drinking water. Immediately, Tomoki sends Ikaros to catch some tuna, while he enters the woods to find something to snack on. The first thing he sees are some mushrooms, which upset his stomach the moment he takes a bite. He passes out for an hour, but when he regains consciousness, he's shocked to hear Mitsuki screaming from a distance. so he follows her voice and finds her in a pit, where he learns that she was separated from the others while running away from a beast. Currently, the sound of the beast scares her, so Tomoki assures her that nothing will happen to her on his watch, and that they'll keep searching for the others tomorrow. Unfortunately, Sugata and Mikako are nowhere to be found the following day, even after Tomoki and Mitsuki search for them. Days turn to weeks, and weeks to a month, which results in Tomoki and Mitsuki living like married cavemen. One night, Tomoki notices that Mitsuki is out late, so he stops by the beach to check on her. Apparently, she's sad because Sugata and Mikako are still missing, and she tears up, wondering if they'll ever get off the island. Tomoki assures her that everything will be fine since she's not alone. But when she mentions having kids with him, she tells him she's not Cinderella, but she's sure it'll fit. So for the first time, she doesn't resist. But before they can develop plot, a monster appears from the sea and ruins the moment. As it drags Mitsuki away, Tomoki attacks it with all his might until he bleeds, only for the monster to collapse, revealing that it was Ikaros the whole time. Turns out she didn't find the tuna Tomoki asked for, so she traveled the ocean looking for it. It all makes sense to Mitsuki now, as she realizes Ikaros was only covered in seaweed and oysters, not the murderous monster she feared her to be. As for Sugata and Mikako, Ikaros punches a door in space, and everyone is shocked to see that they've been at the Satsukane residence the whole time. As for the monster sound Mitsuki heard, it was something Mikako had pre-recorded herself. According to her father, the whole fake island trip was Tomoki's punishment for breaking his rules. Mitsuki and Tomoki are both embarrassed as Mikako plays the video of them almost getting intimate, but rather than let things slide, Mitsuki beats Tomoki up, insisting that everything is his fault. The following day, Tomoki is shocked to find that his house has been reconstructed, thanks to Mikako's father. During the summer break, Tomoki wakes up one day only to find another Angeloid like Ikaros in his house.
Here we go again.
Her name is Nymph, and though she's cute, Tomoki wonders why he keeps attracting alien life partners. But Ikaros tells him it's because he's uglier than the ugliest monster back in her world. So as he's about to take his anger out on Ikaros, Nymph calls him a bug. Though Tomoki thinks he misheard, she calls him a little bug again, because his sausage is smaller than the US port on a flip phone. Feeling violated, Tomoki yells at Ikaros to send Nymph out of his house, and his friends can hear him screaming from outside. Later that day, he joins his friends for a summer trip, and is pissed that Nymph is tagging along. Though everyone is happy to be there, Mitsuki isn't, because she only wanted to go on this trip with Tomoki. Turns out she won a pair of tickets to the beach a few days ago, and after she did, Mikako did too, which explains why they are here with her. Presently, Sugata wonders why another Angeloid popped up at Tomoki's house, and Tomoki only says he woke up and saw her there. Though he hates that she's around, his mood lightens up when they get to a beach full of hot baddies in bikinis. Seeing Mitsuki in her swimsuit sparks a crazy idea in his mind, so he decides they'll play a game of volleyball for fun. Meanwhile, deep down in his disgusting mind, he wants to see who is more giggity between Mitsuki and the other girls. But since Nymph doesn't have giant plot, she slams the ball on his ugly face, ending the game at once. Later, Mitsuki suggests they go out on a boat, and he agrees. So as she runs off to rent a boat, Tomoki notices Nymph sitting by herself, so he goes to meet her. First he gives her his sausage, and as she puts it in her mouth he tells her to say thank you. On tasting it, she finds that it's yummy, though she prevents Tomoki from sitting close to her. Curious, he asks why she showed up, and she tells him that she just wanted to see what this world feels like. She confirms that she's friends with Ikaros, but makes it clear that she's not interested in him at all. Meanwhile, Ikaros is under the sea searching for God knows what, and when Tomoki realizes that she's there, he jumps in to get her out, only to end up drinking 50,000 gallons of water. When he finally recovers, he scolds Ikaros for what she did, fearing that it would draw unwanted attention if someone saw her, since she can't swim. Tomoki decides to teach her, only for Mitsuki to show up with the rented boat and see them together. Jealous, she heads off into the sea alone, but when she thinks about it, she realizes she can't swim either. When she was a kid, Tomoki offered to teach her to swim, and since she was scared, Tomoki went easy on her. Currently, Mitsuki wonders if he's forgotten all about that, but she's slapped back to reality when she realizes she's drifted far from the shore. In the meantime, Tomoki notices that she's missing, so he asks around to find out where she's at. When he recalls that he was supposed to be on a boat with her, he checks the sea, only to find that she's sinking. Without thinking twice, he dives into the sea to save her, and Nymph helps him reach her faster. Eventually, he saves her and apologizes for canceling on her earlier, but he tells her to stop going into the sea by herself since she can't swim. Hearing this sparks relief in Mitsuki's mind, as she's sure he remembered that she can't swim. However, Tomoki strikes a nerve when he goes ahead to teach Ikaros how to swim again. This time, Mitsuki goes nuts and beats him up, pissed that they barely spent time together, and now he's with some hoe teaching her to swim. When she's done teaching him a lesson, she suggests they spend the night in the beach house. At night, Tomoki dreams about that strange girl again, but this time she tells him to be careful of Nymph. When he wakes up, he's shocked to see Ikaros on top of him, but she reveals that she doesn't sleep. Shocked, Tomoki tells her to join him for a walk, so on the way, he finds it convenient that Ikaros doesn't need any sleep. Then he thinks about Nymph and wonders if she faces the same thing, but on the way back, he finds her surrounded by a group of guys. When he tells them to let her go, they refuse because she was rude to them, and one ends up holding him. Pissed, Ikaros activates her powers, and she only calms down when Tomoki yells at her to stop. This time, he's pissed because she scared the guys off. Meanwhile, Shigata and Mitsuki watched everything that happened from a distance. As they set off for the city the following day, Tomoki apologizes for yelling at Ikaros, saying he was rude because he didn't want those guys to think she was a monster. After summer vacation is over, Tomoki prepares to leave for school with Mitsuki. So on his way out, he tells Ikaros to take care of the house and make sure she doesn't follow him to school. Once he leaves, Ikaros sees other students passing by the house and feels the urge to join them. So when Nymph notices, she tells her to screw Tomoki's rules and do whatever she wants. Later at school, Tomoki is shocked when his teacher announces Ikaros and Nymph as the new transfer students. As they head to their seats, they draw a lot of attention from their classmates, while Tomoki barely manages to keep it together. Once he's had enough of the attention the girls are getting, he drags them to Sugata's office so they can explain what's going on. Apparently, Nymph used a wishing card to alter the teacher's memory into believing she's a transfer student. But while Tomoki crashes out, Sugata suggests it might be a good thing to let both Angeloids stay at school so they get a chance at a normal life. Tomoki gives it a second thought and agrees, under the condition that they don't do anything that would raise suspicion. His decision excites Mitsuki, and now she looks forward to showing the new students a thing or two in class. But when the time comes, she quickly realizes that she's the one who needs help, not them. Later, the class is split into groups for a cooking practical session, and some students notice that Ikaros and Nymph are missing. To their shock, both Angeloids speed into class carrying a full-sized fish and a whole cow for the cooking session. As the class begins, everyone is amazed at how good Ikaros is at cooking, and even Mitsuki starts to feel ashamed since she can't cook at all. As for Nymph, she almost sets the school on fire trying to cook her meat, triggering the emergency alarms. During maths class, Nymph doesn't pay attention to the teacher, so he gets pissed and gives her a difficult problem to solve. But his ego gets crushed when she solves it easily, and Ikaros does the same when given a similar one. Nymph finds it strange that Ikaros is that good, so after English class, she tells her that bringing her to school might have actually been worth it. During lunch break, Shigata questions Tomoki about Ikaros and Nymph. Meanwhile, Nymph and Ikaros are getting all the attention from the guys, and Mitsuki is feeling down because she'll remain single and hopeless for the rest of her miserable life. Just before the break ends, Nymph pulls Ikaros aside and talks about using another wishing card. So in the next class, the chemistry teacher glitches out and brings in a guest teacher to take over. When Tomoki sees that it's Ikaros, he's stunned and immediately realizes Nymph is behind it. While he's losing his mind, Ikaros announces that she wants to teach the class how to fly. She opens a window and starts asking for volunteers, only for Shigata and Mikako to handpick Tomoki. The entire class agrees to use him as their lab rat, and to make things more convincing, Ikaros spreads her wings and gives a motivational speech about flight. She says she's sure everyone has imaginary wings on their backs, and though it sounds absurd, Tomoki's brain goes on D&D, and he starts to believe the bees, till he even considers jumping out the window. As the class cheers his name, Shigata hands him a wingsuit and he prepares to jump. Once he does, his life flashes before his eyes, and he wakes up hours later only to find himself wrapped in bandages. As he groans in pain, Ikaros apologizes and promises not to go to school again. But on seeing how down she looks, Tomoki reconsiders and tells her she can keep going to school with Nymph. The next day, both Angeloids join him at school, and they get all the attention from girls. At some point, Nymph sees a bird in the school cage and decides to set it free, making Tomoki wonder what's going on with her. In the girls' locker room, Ikaros and Nymph open their lockers and find them stuffed with love letters from boys. When Nymph figures out what they are, she decides to throw them all away, but Tomoki yells that she should at least consider people's feelings. Later, he tells Shigata about the letters, and Mitsuki reveals that Ikaros is in the library reading them, since she doesn't understand what love is. She then asks Tomoki if he's ever been attracted to Ikaros, and her face says it all when he says no. In the library, while both Angeloids are reading their letters, Nymph turns to Ikaros and says she's been watching her closely. She runs a status scan on Ikaros and realizes that her abilities, memories, and emotions are restricted. When Ikaros asks what's going on, Nymph gets angry and tells her she used to be the Uranus queen who terrified the entire synapse. But before things can go further, Sugata walks into the library, and Nymph is forced to drop the subject. While Sugata searches for a book, Nymph confronts him, saying it's strange that Ikaros is even reading the letters, since she doesn't understand love. Though Sugata believes that her emotions are locked away, he wonders why Nymph is so different and starts questioning if she came to Earth with a different purpose. A few days later, Mitsuki helps Ikaros and Nymph try on a yukata, while Tomoki peeks from a window to get a good view of their plots. But he gets caught and is forced to jump off the roof. The following morning, Sugata is stunned when he sees some weird dude named Judas casually strolling by with a gun and a coffin. That evening during the city's annual festival, the same guy is seen sitting at a stall he owns, displaying tons of weapons and bullets. And though others are intrigued by his setup, Mitsuki is terrified when she sees him. As for Sugata, he scans the stall and notices there are only guns and bullets, and no targets anywhere. Right then, Mikako shows up and grabs everyone's attention as she talks about this year's festival. She reveals that her clan invited a special guest to spice things up, and that this year's event will be a survival game. The game gives everyone access to a gun loaded with rubber bullets, and the last person standing will win a 10 million yen reward. Everyone gets hyped at the chance to become a millionaire, except Tomoki, who has a bad feeling that something might go wrong. After gearing up with guns, everyone gathers at a designated spot to begin the game, but just before it starts, Nymph walks off, saying she's not interested in playing. On Mikako's mark, the game begins, and Tomoki almost finds himself caught in the crossfire. As he runs to take cover, he gets lucky when a grandma shoots at him and misses. On seeing her, Tomoki is shocked, since she's supposed to be crippled, but the old woman tells him that 10 million yen is a lot of money for her to ignore. Right then, Tomoki takes off running for his life, dodging Granny's bullets. But just when he thinks he's escaped, another thirsty woman pulls up on him with Sim, and he soon finds himself surrounded by more attackers. Although he manages to get away, a group of schoolgirls chases after him, and he starts wondering what he ever did to make women hate him this much. He finally takes cover behind a tree, but he doesn't even get a chance to breathe, since Granny catches up and tries to take another shot. This time, before she can fire, she and some of the other girls are gunned down by a sniper hidden in the woods. Turns out Sugata is the sniper, and he starts dropping targets one by one. But just as he's about to take out the last one, he realizes there's another sniper in the woods, Mikako. When they spot each other, they both fire a shot that explodes right above Tomoki's head. Then, the two snipers charge at each other to settle things in close-range combat, but they're evenly matched. Their fight gets interrupted when Ikaros suddenly shows up, flying through the air with a machine gun and mowing down everyone in her path. Sugata and Mikako get caught in the crossfire, and while the injured fear the end is near, Tomoki just shoots Ikaros in the head and tells her to off. As she flies away, Tomoki realizes she actually helped eliminate most of his enemies, so now he's looking forward to claiming the reward money. Elsewhere, Ikaros meets Nymph, who asks if she felt good about attacking innocent people. She then promises to make Ikaros remember who she truly is, but when Ikaros insists she's just a pet class Angeloid, Nymph loses it and attacks her. Apparently, Nymph was sent by her master to retrieve Ikaros and return her to the synapse, and she takes pleasure in beating her down. But Ikaros keeps repeating that she's just a pet class Angeloid, which pisses Nymph off. To set the record straight, she hacks Ikaros and removes her memory protection, and that's how Ikaros remembers a time when she was sent by her previous master to destroy humans on the surface. Back then, she wiped out an entire civilization with a single shot. So as the memory floods her mind, she recalls how Tomoki hates seeing her as a destructive weapon, and she begins to weep. Nymph begins to laugh at her, but stops and wonders how Ikaros can cry since she only unlocked her memory protections. To her shock, Ikaros unlocks the rest of her restrictions and fully awakens into her former self. But instead of siding with Nymph, Ikaros attacks her, forcing Nymph to run for her life. Despite her efforts, Ikaros catches up and knocks her out of the sky with a devastating shot. Even when Nymph fires a powerful energy blast at her, it does nothing. Trembling, Nymph watches as Ikaros charges up an arrow strong enough to wipe out a country. But Ikaros coldly says she'll minimize the damage. She tells Nymph to leave and adds that she just wants to go back to Tomoki and keep pretending to be his pet. Eventually, Nymph agrees to retreat, but before flying off, she warns Ikaros that she won't be able to keep fooling Tomoki forever. Meanwhile, Tomoki somehow ends up as one of the few surviving contestants, but he's shocked to discover that Judas is using a gun with real bullets. Then Mitsuki shows up and is hyped because she wants to shoot Tomoki and win the money. While she chases him, she fantasizes about all the things she wants to do with the prize, which includes marrying Tomoki, going on dates with him, a BBL, and even getting clapped by him. So when she finally gets a clear shot, fortunately, Ikaros shows up and takes the hit for Tomoki. And just as he's about to break down, she casually wakes up and shows she's completely unharmed, now that Mitsuki and Tomoki are the only players left. Mikako pits them against Judas as the final boss. They all take positions in a classic Western-style standoff, ready to draw. But before Mitsuki and Tomoki can even pull the trigger, they're both knocked to the ground, and Judas wins the money in the end. A group of angels in the skies scold Nymph for failing to retrieve Ikaros. So when Nymph's master threatens to dispose of her, she promises to take Ikaros down the next time she's granted an opportunity. Her master then uses a wishing card to add a timer to her choker, signaling that she has a short time to get the job done or else she's cooked. A few days pass, and Tomoki joins his friends to spend time in the fields. Mikako reserves a spot for them, and while they head toward it, Mitsuki wonders what's up with Nymph since she hasn't been back for days. But Tomoki doesn't read too much into her absence, thinking she's probably visiting folks back in her hometown. As for Ikaros, she walks up to a stall and accidentally breaks an electric toy, and Tomoki gets pissed since he has to pay for it. Before he leaves, he sees a plotful DVD set and becomes sad when he realizes that he can't afford it. As he walks away, Ikaros feels bad and tries to apologize, but he completely ignores her and keeps going. Ikaros then decides she'll act more human, so when she hears a couple say that lying is human, she decides to take lying to the extreme. The next time she meets Mitsuki, she tells her she hates her and that no one thinks she's cute. Then she tells Shugata that there's no new world and turns to Mikako saying she's a nice person. As for Tomoki, she tells him she doesn't want to be with him. Hurt, Tomoki and Mitsuki try to eat and drink their sadness away, but since it doesn't help, Tomoki decides he'll do anything to feel better. Meanwhile, Ikaros is having a field day roasting everyone she sees, all in the name of being human. Nymph shows up at some point and tells her she isn't there for a fight, but deep down, she plans to fool Ikaros and take her back to the synapse at any cost. However, as she enters stealth mode and tries to abduct Tomoki, she finds the loser watching a couple developing plot. When she interferes, Tomoki gets pissed and questions where she's been all this time. He tells her he was worried about her and that she shouldn't leave again without letting him know. Hearing this makes her soften up a bit, even though she was originally on a mission to abduct him. She's even forced to join Tomoki back at the fields, only to find out he wants her help selling garbage so he can raise money to buy the plotful dude he saw earlier. But when his friends stop by his stall, Shugata tells him he might not get any sales. Right then, Mitsuki gets the idea to start a cooking stall with Ikaros, while Mikako sets up a gun store and Tomoki ends up losing potential customers. Feeling frustrated, Tomoki turns to Nymph for help, and she suggests starting a food stall like Mitsuki's. Without wasting time, Tomoki sets up a pancake stall, but he loses female customers after serving meals based on the size of their milk jugs. He even tries selling Mitsuki's plot armor and her OnlyFans picture album, only to get caught mid-deal and beaten until he loses all his clothes. As he struggles to recover from the embarrassing beating, he sees couples having the best time of their lives and gets jealous. So he starts attacking them with pancakes and breaks down in tears, pissed that he still can't afford the dead. Nymph watches as he crashes out and realizes that all he wants is to be popular with the girls. When he confirms it, she uses her powers to make all the ladies find him attractive. The moment it kicks in, all the girls swarm him, and he realizes something was bound to get longer and harder than all of your sausage. So he runs off and returns with a grand entrance to riz all the ladies into falling in love with him to make them buy his drinks at his new stall. His plan works as the girls begin ordering drinks, but Nymph hates that she's now the errand girl forced to help him. So when Tomoki takes things too far and tells the girls to have a drink with his sausage, Nymph gets jealous and reverses the attractiveness spell, causing the girls to beat and abandon him. After getting drained and dumped, Tomoki struggles to recover what's left of him, but he realizes Nymph was responsible and brushes it off since he now has enough money to buy the DVD. He runs off after thanking her, and she begins to feel some type of way for him. In the meantime, Shugata figures out that Ikaros has been lying the whole time and questions why. When she reveals that humans lie and she's trying to be more human, he understands her perspective and figures Tomoki will get hurt if he doesn't learn the truth too. So around sunset, when Tomoki arrives, Shugata confirms that Ikaros was lying the whole time, just to try and act more human. Mitsuki is excited after hearing this because it means Ikaros didn't mean all the things she said to her earlier. But Ikaros is forced to say that Mitsuki is a nice person, just so she doesn't hurt her feelings. As for Tomoki, Ikaros confirms that she does want to be with him, and he feels a bit relieved. Later that evening, Ikaros apologizes to Tomoki for all the trouble she had caused earlier, but he brushes it off and says he's cool. Ikaros still feels bad, so she asks for his honest opinion about what he thinks of her. Rather than answer directly, Tomoki tells her how he was never considered normal as a kid. Back then, he was full of curiosity and loved adventure, so he led his friends into the mountains to explore, but some of them got hurt. Because of that, none of his friends wanted to go to the mountains with him again, and their parents stopped them from being friends with him altogether, until he ended up all alone. He reveals that he felt really bad when he thought the girls might leak him too, so when Ikaros hears this, she goes in for a kiss and tells him she wants to be with him forever. Tomoki is left completely stunned, struggling to figure out what's come over her. While he crashes out, Nymph sits on the rooftop and realizes that he's never going to find a wife. While Nymph and Tomoki are watching a romantic movie, Ikaros sees some scenes and wishes she could lock hands with Tomoki. Later that day, Tomoki arrives at school and realizes that the students are preparing for the cultural fair. According to Mitsuki, it's a festival that the school hosts where classes set up shops, put on plays, and other related activities. Ikaros asks Tomoki if he's going to participate in the event, but he tells her he's sitting this one out until Shugata and Mikako show up, revealing that he's part of their club. As Tomoki tries to process this, Yoshitsune and Tsukino arrive as representatives of the private academy and begin to mock Tomoki's mates for their poor decorations. Tsukino wonders if the students know anything about culture, and this strikes a nerve in Tomoki. When he asks what they'll be doing for this year's festival, Yoshitsune mentions organizing a furuoka, which means an orchestra. But since Tomoki is so dumb, he thinks it's something else and ends up embarrassing his school in front of his opponents. As a result, Tsukino and Yoshitsune mock him for being a brokey, so after they leave, Mikako says they'll need to retaliate with a musical performance too. She suggests forming a band, and though everyone is on par with it, it's only Nymph who's good at playing the piano. So Tomoki holds her hand and compliments her, while Ikaros gets jealous when she sees them together. Later that evening, during a clan meeting, Mikako reveals that the academy students picked a fight with her school over the festival fair. So her father takes it personal and decides that it's going to be war. From the next day, he designates his men to mount posters all over the city to show support for Mikako's band, and it ends up raising awareness in a short time. However, the opposing academy organizes a meeting and uses it as a way to create their own large support group, forcing the townspeople to split into two factions, one for Mikako's band and the other for the academy's orchestra. Seeing that things are now getting serious, Tomoki decides to join his band for a practice session. While at it, everyone tries to get a hang of their musical instrument, except Ikaros, who feels sad because she's not good with hers. Nymph masters hers and ends up getting praised again, so Mitsuki suggests that Ikaros try something new that she might be good at. When she does, everyone is stunned, and they all look forward to the contest. Later that afternoon, Tomoki gets a freaky thought and decides to go to the women's swimsuit cafe to get a view of the good stuff.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
He's shocked to see Ikaros there, and even more shocked when he sees that Nymph is getting all the attention from guys despite having no visible plot. As for Mitsuki, she serves him a drink, but before she leaves, Tomoki smiles at her milkers and almost gets beaten to death when she notices. After their time at the cafe, Mitsuki drags Tomoki to see a haunted house, and Ikaros feels bad that she doesn't get to go with him. At the same time, Nymph sees Shugata showing off his glider as an exhibit for sale, and Nymph wonders why he's so obsessed with flight. She tells him it's not always sunshine and rainbows in the skies, but Shugata says he already knows from the way she and Ikaros have been acting. Right then, Nymph begins to recall a time in the past when she was scolded and beaten by her master, all because he was bored. She offered to entertain him by singing a song, but her master still threatened to get rid of her permanently. Fearing death, Nymph promised she'd do anything to set things right, so her master told her to de-wing a bird she loved so much. At first, Nymph hesitated, but she did it anyway since she was left with no choice. Even after she did, her master humiliated her. As she thinks about this in the present, Tomoki calls her and gives her a candy sweet, telling her he promised to get her something she liked. Immediately, she recalls when her master was beating her and how she had to thank him for it. Now she wonders why Tomoki is so nice to her, since she was made to believe that humans are bugs to be trampled on. So as she tastes the candy, she realizes that it's sweet and begins to shed tears. This makes Mitsuki wonder what's up with her, but because she doesn't want them to know how she feels, she lies and says she doesn't like the candy. A few hours go by, and the time comes for Mikako's band to face off against the private academy students. While everyone chants outside the school hall, the private academy students ascend the stage and prepare to perform for their fans. Everything goes smoothly as Tsukino's team drops a wonderful musical performance, leaving their followers in awe. As everyone claps for them, the other students wonder if Mikako's band will be as good. But a girl cheers them up, saying everything will be fine since Tomoki will be performing. At the appointed time, Tomoki drops an epic entrance with his band on stage, only to go completely off point and start singing about plot and how wonderful they are. This shocks the crowd and leaves their opponents laughing, but after Mitsuki smacks him to the ground, he tells the audience they'll be performing their main song now. Shocked, Yoshitsune is forced to watch as Ikaros grabs the mic and solos a song with her wonderful voice, while Tomoki and the others act as backup instrumentals. The crowd is left speechless when they're done performing, and their band ends up winning the musical contest. After everything, Tomoki joins his team to celebrate and toast to their victory, and they all compliment Ikaros for helping to secure the win. Later on, Shugata asks Tomoki if he's going to the bonfire, but he says no, because only couples are allowed. That's when Mitsuki, Ikaros, and Nymph try to ask if he'd go with them, but he becomes confused about who to pick. Surprisingly, Nymph suggests that he take Ikaros instead, and Mitsuki says the same thing too, insisting that it'll be Ikaros' reward for working hard during the contest. Finally, Tomoki agrees to go out with Ikaros, and she finally gets to lock hands with him. But when she starts to wonder if it's okay for her to be so happy, she slowly takes her hand off and assumes that she's the weapon Tomoki hates so much. The next morning, Ikaros thinks about last night's bonfire and wonders if she can keep hiding the truth from Tomoki. Deep down, she wants to know what's on his mind. Meanwhile, he's busy thinking about how he'll sneak into the girls' bath. The following day, Mikako is excited to join the girls in the public bath, and Tomoki does too. Knowing the kind of person he is, Mikako thinks it won't end well, but Tomoki insists he's innocent. Meanwhile, he plans to use one of Ikaros' cards so he can have a blast with the girls, but Mitsuki figures him out and confiscates all the cards from Ikaros. Frustrated, Tomoki sulks while Nymph mocks him for being too obvious. Left with no choice, he confides in Sugata, asking for help to infiltrate the girls' bath. At first, Sugata declines, but when Tomoki suggests that the new world might exist in the girls' bath, since it's been forever since they saw girls bathing, he changes his mind. Sugata then reveals one of Ikaros' wishing cards and proposes a wild plan where Tomoki will become a girl so he can be allowed to join the girls. That evening, Tomoki uses the card and transforms into a girl, and Nymph is stunned when she sees him. Once Ikaros confirms his vitals are stable, Tomoki heads to a store to shop for plot armors and is baffled when he discovers that girls add pads to their milkers. He tries on a set, acts cute in front of Nymph, and ends up convincing her to buy one too after complimenting her. The next day, Tomoki begins his plan to become popular at school, so he bumps into a guy and accidentally falls in a way that lets the guy see his plot. As expected, the dude instantly starts crushing on him, thinking Tomoki's a real girl, but Tomoki runs away before they can talk. Later, while chatting with Nymph, Mitsuki shows up and asks about Tomoki's whereabouts. So Nymph lies, saying he's homesick with flu, and Mitsuki says she'll check on him later, but Nymph insists he'll be fine. Meanwhile, Tomoki, now Tomoko, introduces himself to Mitsuki as a newly transferred female student, and he's thrilled when Mitsuki doesn't suspect a thing. When he gets to school, he acts all girly and attracts loads of guys. During cooking class, he shows up in a maid outfit and somehow even develops a tail, sending the guys into a frenzy. They shower him with gifts and attention, and he becomes one of the most popular girls in school. When it's time for PE, Tomoki enters the girls' locker room to change and nearly loses his mind at the sight of the girls' plots. As he walks to his locker, he trips and lands on Mitsuki's plot, but since she thinks he's a girl, she just laughs it off and even calls him cute. She starts talking about her childhood friend, referring to Tomoki. Later, Tomoki meets Sugata, who praises him for acting like a girl perfectly. He then says it's time for phase 2 of their mission, which involves infiltrating the girls' public bath. So after school, Tomoko introduces himself to Mikako as a transfer student and says he's always admired her. Although Mikako finds it odd that someone likes her, she agrees to let Tomoko join her at the bath. However, Mitsuki smiles, saying Tomoki is sick and won't be around to peek, not knowing the sick boy is right next to her. Before leaving, Sugata gives Tomoki a thumbs up for his performance, and now looks forward to seeing if the new world truly exists in the public bath. A few hours later, the girls head to the public bath, and Nymph gets worried as she remembers her master and realizes that she's running out of time. As for Tomoki, he's excited to enter the public bath, while Sugata watches closely, using a wall painting to disguise his presence. Tomoki gets too excited as he turns around and sees the girl's unplotted milkers, and even Ikaros starts to notice that his vitals are spiking. While she monitors his vitals, Nymph shows up, wishing it was easy for her to finish her mission. She compares herself to Ikaros, telling her that she has nothing to worry about, but Ikaros tells her she's worried about hiding the truth from Tomoki, because she knows she won't be able to fool him forever. She feels that Tomoki will hate her if he learns the truth, and now she's confused if she should keep her secret or just come clean to him. Back in the bath, Tomoki asks Mikako if he can help scrub her back, and when she agrees, he gets way too fired up and uses shower gel to accidentally massage her milk jugs. While pretending it was a slip-up, he fondles them and nearly passes out, while Ikaros picks up strange readings from his body. He then moves on to Mitsuki, slipping again and landing right on her milkers, leading to another round of accidental fondling. With all the blood rushing to one place, Tomoki completely loses control and starts fondling every girl in the bath at high speed. At some point, Ikaros walks in, trying to stabilize his vitals, but Tomoki only calms down right before lunging at Mikako again. After he reverts to normal, he tries to run away, but Mitsuki catches him, and he ends up biting the dust. So as he's about to be isekai'd into another anime, Sugata tells him to know when to pull out or hold back. The following day, he's reincarnated back into this world, and the person in charge of the public bath forces him to clean up his punishment. The next time the girls go to the bath, they're happy that Tomoki isn't around to spy on them. After they're done, Ikaros decides it's finally time to tell him the truth, but as she tries, she freezes and begins to cry. Tomoki gently tells her to wait until she's ready. Meanwhile, Nymph secretly listens from the side, wishing she had Tomoki as her master instead. As the sun sets, Tomoki meets up with Sugata and curiously asks him what he really thinks about Angeloids. He admits he always dreamed of having a robot made like Ikaros, but not if it means she has to suffer. Sugata then tells Tomoki he's sure the new world exists, and that both Ikaros and Nymph are still trapped by it. And hearing that makes Tomoki feel like punching whoever created Angeloids in the first place. A few days later, Nymph grows paranoid as the timer on her choker keeps ticking. In the meantime, Tomoki tries his best to teach Ikaros how to smile, but despite all his efforts, she flops and he gets frustrated. When Nymph walks in and sees them, she walks away, remembering that she came all this way just to bring Ikaros back. Later that morning, Tomoki meets Mitsuki and asks for her help on how to make Ikaros smile, so Mitsuki decides to tickle Ikaros into smiling by force, but it doesn't work. Tomoki, on the other hand, decides to demonstrate how to tickle properly, using Mitsuki as his scapegoat. Everything starts off fine, and Mitsuki can't help but laugh while getting tickled. But something starts to rise when Tomoki's hands reach for her milk jugs and the rest of her plot.
Damn!
Mitsuki notices and beats him to a pulp, leaving Ikaros still wondering if she'll ever be able to smile. Noticing her sadness, Nymph suggests they meet Sugata for advice, but that doesn't go well since he's not exactly the smiling type. As they walk away from him, they bump into Mikako and confide in her about Ikaros' smile problem. When asked when she smiles, Mikako casually replies that it usually happens when she hurts someone with a hard stick. Inspired, Ikaros decides to try it out. So the next time she sees Tomoki, she chases him around with a hard stick and tries to beat him up. Tomoki ends up running for his life, but despite his quick legs, he gets caught and spaghetti-fied. Mikako watches from a window and laughs, but even after following her advice, Ikaros still doesn't smile. On the way home, everyone sees a stuffed Christmas teddy and realizes Christmas is near. Mitsuki suggests they all have a Christmas party at Tomoki's place, hoping it might help Ikaros finally smile, and everyone looks forward to it. Later that evening, Ikaros wonders why it's so hard for her to smile, even though all her restrictions have been lifted. Nymph tells her it's probably because she was created for combat, but Ikaros points out that she's never seen Nymph smile either. This makes Nymph remember a time when her master beat her, and Ikaros could only watch, which was the last time Nymph remembers smiling. In the present, Ikaros senses something is bothering Nymph, but Nymph quickly changes the topic. The next day, Tomoki wakes up and heads out for breakfast, only to be shocked when he sees Ikaros smiling at him for the first time. But things quickly get weird when she corners him and tries to choke him with her milkers. But before she can show him why she's called the throat goat, he realizes her face is stuck in place, so Nymph rats her out, revealing Ikaros used glue to fake the smile. While Ikaros is forced to wash her face off, a commercial on TV shows a couple on a date, and Nymph wonders what dating is all about. When Tomoki and Ikaros walk in, she suggests they all go on a date together. That afternoon, Tomoki takes both girls out, hoping Ikaros might smile for real. He tells the girls to buy whatever they want, so Ikaros picks up a ton of watermelon, while Nymph buys nothing, quietly wondering if she even deserves a present. Tomoki then takes them to the cinema, but the girls' awkward movie picks force him to settle for the amusement park instead. At the park, Ikaros sees Tomoki having fun and still can't bring herself to smile, but when she sees Nymph holding Tomoki's hand, something inside her aches. Later at the zoo, Tomoki leaves to grab some tea, and in his absence, Nymph admits she wishes Tomoki were her master. She compares the caged animals to their chokers and wonders if freedom is even possible. Then, she blurts out and asks Ikaros if Tomoki would be happy if the animals could run away. Immediately, Ikaros imagines Tomoki smiling and transforms into battle mode, blasting open the cages and freeing every animal. Unfortunately for Tomoki, the zoo animals go feral and chase him down like he's the day's main course. He ends up losing his sanity as well as his clothes, and within minutes, the zookeepers call the police and the military. He gets arrested and ends up on national news, so after miraculously getting out of jail, Tomoki angrily tells the girls to go home with him, but Nymph shows him they haven't completed the last item on the dating guide. When Tomoki sees it's kissing, he freaks out, saying that kind of stuff is only for someone in your heart. Nymph still insists and asks Ikaros for permission, then walks up and tries to kiss Tomoki, but Ikaros grows uncomfortable and flies away. So when Tomoki leans in, Nymph pushes him away and starts acting like a proper tsundere. She realizes she actually has feelings for him, regrets how she's treated Ikaros, and flies off, leaving Ikaros in Tomoki's hands, trusting that she'll eventually learn to smile, as long as she's with him. Meanwhile, Ikaros imagines Nymph kissing Tomoki and completely spaces out and crashes onto a nearby hill, complaining that her reactor hurts. Later that evening, Tomoki walks her home, and seeing that she's covered in dirt, he scolds her, but she apologizes for not being able to smile. Tomoki just holds her hand and walks her the rest of the way home. She gets ambushed by Gamma and Harpy, two Angeloids who tell her that her master sent them to destroy Ikaros. They lie to Nymph, claiming her master is worried about her, and the love-starved Angeloid believes them, unaware that he plans to reject her once Ikaros and the Downers are taken care of. That night, Tomoki has a strange dream where the same girl tells him to save the others, warning that time is running out. He wakes up the next morning only for Ikaros to tell him that Nymph is gone. Ikaros tells the others, who are busy decorating the place for Christmas, so when Sopara asks Tomoki if he's the reason Nymph disappeared, he awkwardly recalls almost kissing her and denies it. Shigata then mentions he saw Nymph flying over the forest, looking depressed. The group begins to worry, but Tomoki assures them she'll be back by evening to celebrate, and for now, it's best to finish decorating. Sugata heads to the river to cut down a big tree, while Ikaros helps Sohara bake a cake. In the kitchen, Mitsuki shows Ikaros a photo album she brought for the party, but as Ikaros flips through the photos, she starts to feel like the odd one out. Meanwhile, Gamma and Harpy convince Nymph to use her stealth ability to help lure Ikaros into a trap. Nymph agrees, but only on the condition that she talks to Ikaros first and convinces her to come peacefully. Back at the house, as Sohara hangs up the photos, Ikaros reflects on Nymph's words and starts questioning her purpose. As she excuses herself, Mitsuki senses something's wrong and tries to get her to open up, but when Ikaros says nothing, Mitsuki lets her go, hoping she'll return soon. Outside, Ikaros sees Tomoki carrying decorations and approaches to say goodbye. She apologizes for the trouble she and Nymph have caused and tells him she loves him. Then, she removes her jacket, says farewell, and takes off. She heads straight to the crater caused by the Gamma Angeloid's landing, senses Nymph's presence nearby, and flies toward her. Meanwhile, Tomoki frantically searches for her, checking the school and everywhere else. Sugata eventually shows up and pinpoints Ikaros' location using calculations and data from Skywatchers. He plans to take Tomoki there on his bike, but Mikako suddenly appears. Back at the battlefield, Ikaros finds Nymph, who confesses she was sent to bring her back. To her surprise, Ikaros says she already knew, and Harpy, hidden by Nymph's stealth, fires a beam cannon at Ikaros, hitting her directly and destroying her left wing. Meanwhile, Tomoki is still running around when Mikako snaps her fingers and summons a limo. Just as they're about to leave, Mitsuki shows up and demands to come along, and though Tomoki hesitates, he agrees to take her. Back at the fields, Nymph screams at Gamma and Harpy for breaking their deal, but they casually admit they lied and that she's useless now. As they attempt to finish Ikaros off, Nymph lets out a powerful scream that knocks them away, and she begins to think she's won. To her shock, both Angeloids recover quickly and pin Nymph down, ripping out her beautiful wings. Ikaros hears as Nymph screams in pain and starts to gear up. With Tomoki and the others nearby, she transforms and prepares for battle. Before flying off, she apologizes to Tomoki, admitting she's always been the weapon he hated. But Tomoki tells her he knows already, and that the reason he never wanted her to be a weapon was because he felt sorry for her. Then, in a rare moment of honesty, he calls her a sweet girl and says he's glad she's like that because now she can help save Nymph. On his mark, Ikaros flies off and engages the enemy in a brutal combat, while he joins the others to reach Nymph and try to break her chain. Nymph warns them it could unalive them, but they don't care since they're her friends. Touched by their words, Nymph finally understands what happiness is, and as they sever the chain, she smiles and a huge beam of energy bursts from her and shoots into deep space. In the skies, Ikaros faces the Gamma Angeloids, and though they try to overwhelm her with numbers, she activates the Uranus system and lights them up like the 4th of July. As the light fades, the Angeloids vanish with it, and Ikaros returns to her friends. Later that night, as everyone gathers to celebrate Christmas and the Angeloids' birthday, Tomoki gifts them, and for the first time, Ikaros smiles. Everyone notices, but when Tomoki asks her to try again, she quickly reverts to her usual expression. Minutes later, they dig into their treats and take a group photo, solidifying their bond. That brings us to the end of today's video. Honestly, editing this without baby oil was tough, so do me a favor and drop a RIP Tomoki in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're into anime recaps like this, check out the next video. Peace.